could we be given warning at the beginning of a programme if there's going to be anything about the Beatles, as all Beatle fans can make sure to listen, and have a chance to ring up other fans to make sure they are also listening.
Hi everybody, this is John here. This is Paul, George
and Ringo.
And we're very happy to be on your programme once again.
This is Steve Marinucci. Welcome to Beatles News Briefs number 122. On this show, we're going to talk about the just-released Live at Candlestick Park, the Beatles book that includes all the photography done by the celebrated photographer Jim Marshall. Our guests are Amelia Davis and longtime rock critic Joel Selvin. Amelia Davis curated the book, and Joel Selvin wrote an essay in the front of the book. If you don't normally watch the video version of this podcast, you might want to do that this time. It'll be on YouTube, and it has pictures that Chronicle Books let us use, including some unreleased ones. So that's a special reason. Another special reason is we have a contest that you'll hear about after the end of the interview to give away a copy of the book. So that's another reason you might want to listen all the way through here. In any event, here we go. I'm talking to Amelia Davis, who worked with Jim Marshall. You were his assistant?
Yes. Yes.
And she is in charge of the Jim Marshall archive. And it all has to do with the new book coming out. It's called The Beatles Live at Candlestick Park. It's a beautiful book because I've seen many of the pictures that are in it. Let's talk about how the book came together and what brought it together at this point in time.
This year is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' last live concert at Candlestick Park, which was August 29th, 1966. So Jim was the only photographer that was allowed backstage, which was basically the locker room, because Candlestick Park was the ballpark for baseball, and then later the San Francisco 49ers. So it was nothing fancy. It was just a locker room. So Jim was there, but Jim met the Beatles at the airport and photographed them departing the airplane, then rode with them in the bus to Candlestick Park, and then was backstage and then photographed them live. It's a wonderful collection. Jim only took black and white, and there's only 16 proof sheets from that day. But one of the things I did was include the proof sheets in the book because, first of all, people today, because of digital photography, don't even know what a proof sheet is or looks like. It's fun to include those because you can see Jim's train of thought when you look through the proof sheets, almost like a writer's notebook. You get inside of Jim's head and see what's there. Jim basically only published or showed, I'd say about a handful, maybe 10 of the images from that concert, which are really iconic and are ingrained in the fabric of the culture. But I wanted to show all of it. For this book, that's what we did. We showed all the photographs. And I think it's a delight for anybody who loves Beatles, the Beatles, and who love Jim Marshall photography or love photography in general.
I've been in that locker room. I was in that locker room shortly before they tore down Candlestick, and I saw that area, and he was in close quarters with them. And how much time did he spend with them all together? Do you know?
It was the whole day, pretty much, when they landed at the airport and then until the concert was over and they left in the armored car. Yeah, it was pretty much.
Did he ever write any of his feelings down? We all know it was cold because it was Candlestick. And even Paul McCartney said so on the tape that survives of that show.
He did. Yeah, he did. And he told me to. And everybody agrees it wasn't a success. Really, the Beatles didn't want to be there. It was their last concert. It was Candlestick Park in San Francisco. So it was foggy. It was cold. The sound system was just the stadium sound system. So nobody could hear them. The Beatles couldn't even really hear themselves singing. So it really was not a success. And that's what it was. I think by that time the Beatles were done. They were ready to just move on because they had spent so much time touring and just traveling that I think they were just done.
The big travesty
Right.
in the Philippines, that
Yeah.
contributed mightily to their decision. But yeah, they were tired. They were really
Yeah.
tired, and they didn't want to do it anymore.
And as Joel also said, which I didn't know until Joel said it, was that Tempo Productions, which was Tom Donahue was a big DJ
Oh,
and
yes.
rock and roll DJ. So his company, Tempo Productions, was producing this. And the Beatles had committed to it, but then when they were in LA, they said, we don't want to do it. We're not coming. Tom Donahue and his wife Rachel had to fly down to LA to serve them papers. They had to sue them to make them come to the concert, which they did. But that's how burnt they were.
I never heard that story before.
Yeah, I know. It was so Joel talked with Rachel, which she's still alive, which was Tom Donahue's wife. We have a lot of really great insights from Rachel from what she could remember in the book. That's towards the end.
And joining us now is longtime San Francisco Chronicle and now rock critic Joel Selvin. You are retired, is that not true?
I've never been busier, but I'm retired.
And you write an essay in the beginning of the Beatles at Candlestick Park book. What was going on with them at the time, and what was going on with Jim Marshall and how did they come together?
I don't think in 1966 that there was any important musical event taking place in San Francisco that Jim Marshall didn't cover. He was extremely ambitious, very diligent, and I think in his mind, he felt like it wasn't an important event until he was there.
Did you watch him work?
Oh, you couldn't miss Marshall. He was in your way and up on the stage, and everybody knew who he was. It was years before I had any contact with Marshall, and that's all hilarious. But every encounter with Jim Marshall was another story. He was a character, and he never went out of character. Did he, Amelia? He never went out of character.
Never.
Let's talk about the essay that you have in the book. Give people an idea of what you say in the essay and how you talk about the Beatles.
It's a simple journalistic account of the Beatles' final concert. It was really pretty simple assignment to just fill in the blanks. Amelia did this incredible job of curating Jim's photos. Jim took, how many rolls of film did he shoot that day?
It was 16 proof sheets. You'd think it would be more, but it was just 16.
Wow, you must have used every photo because the coverage is incredibly detailed, and she's ripped off the front of the thing, and you can see all the way through it to who was there and what was happening and what it was like. I'm not sure that another concert would bear such scrutiny, but in this case, it being the final public performance by the Beatles and all the attendant anxiety and tension that were accompanying it, it really comes alive in this book because of Amelia's efforts. The essay is a minor piece. It's really a prolonged caption.
But it talks about what I was saying earlier is I didn't know that Tempo Productions had to sue the Beatles to actually come up and play.
Oh, there's always backstory, right? And the concert business was young, so it was just a baby. The sound system at Candlestick that the McCunes brought was prehistoric. It was the sort of thing you used to, at the baseball park, say, and now batting. And the whole thing of delivering the band on stage in a security van.
Armored car.
Armored car, yeah. And putting the stage out on second base. It's just all so crazy and goofy, but nobody knew how to do that stuff. Donahue had only done a few concerts, and he hadn't done the previous concerts. That's how he ended up getting it, is he went in there but he started out doing that Chubby Checker concert at the Cow Palace in, what was that,
62? Wasn't it 62?
Yeah, that's the poster for it right there.
There's a picture of that concert in the book.
Yes.
Yeah, we had some fantastic shots of that show, too. I've been through that proof sheets. That's amazing shots.
Really great shots. And true to Marshall, it's not just the performers, but the audience as well. And that's what I think brings it all to life, is everything that's going on.
That's a typical trope of covering rock concerts of the day. I had pulled the proof sheets from the Chronicle's coverage of the 1964 Beatles concert at the Cow Palace, and the guy took a roll and a half of film, and on his way out the door, he turned around and took 2 frames of the stage. The rest was all screaming teenagers.
There was some real complete lack of intelligence in covering some of these things back then. There really was.
It was an establishment thing. The media was totally in the hands of adults, and it was an establishment, and their view on the things that were important to young people was it didn't matter, it was irrelevant. And that went on all the way through to Woodstock. They had to stop the traffic on the interstate before anybody went, hey, there's something going on here. The Candlestick Park concert was a huge turning point, unrecognized so at the time. Because, that same night, there were shows going on across town at the Fillmore and Avalon.
And the show didn't sell out.
Oh, it wasn't. It was way overreached. That was a 55,000 capacity. And I think there was a deal involved in the rental. Donahue was a hustler of major proportions, how they ended up there. I think they just made a tiny bit of money. I don't think they lost money, and I don't think they took bags home.
And of course, it was very cold that night, as Paul McCartney said on the tape. Have you heard the tape of Candlestick, Joel?
Sure, I've seen the films, and it's been a part of San Francisco rock lore for, 50, 60 years now. I've got a ticket in a frame on a wall. I've got the books. The books that have been out before are very slight.
What I love about it, too, is when Jim was in the locker room, just showing what it was like to be waiting before you go out to a concert. A lot of people think it's this exciting thing. It's boring. The Beatles, he captured them, and they look absolutely bored. They're sitting there drinking tea and smoking cigarettes.
And they don't look like they're friendly either.
They don't.
There's no sense of camaraderie or,
Yeah. And they're doodling.
It's a bunch of people who are sick of being with each other, who can't wait to get over what they're doing. And there's no sense of enthusiasm or good humor or goofing around. It's a dour scene, although all the other people are all lit up, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And Joan Baez is sitting there with them doodling on the tablecloth as well.
And she'd been with them in Hollywood just a couple nights before.
She flew up with them on the plane, her and Mimi Farina. They're both in the Lockwood pictures.
Yeah. And there was the meet and greet where they had to meet people that came in, and they were being interviewed and recorded and things like that. So it was they were following what they had to do. But what I like is a lot of people never see that scene. When you go to a concert, you just see them performing, and they're on and they're happy and excited. You don't see what happens before that. And Jim was so good at capturing that and showing truly what was happening that people don't see.
Yeah, he really was. He was an incredible photographer. He did so many great photos.
We're all aware of Jim's work, what he called the hero shots. But what Amelia's done here is really dug down and showed you just how detailed his work was. Jim and I did a book a number of years ago called Proof, and it had a proof sheet on one side and then the hero shot on the other side. And this book came about because I was spending so much time looking at his proof sheets and realizing there were no mistakes on these proof sheets. Every shot was framed, composed, in focus, had a message, had a meaning. Some were better than others, but every one. And it's just astonishing. It's like a level of intuition as an artist that you just can't attain by study or practice or anything like that. This is really instinct. I talked to Jim about this because, of course, and you can get pretty deep about this. Think about this for a minute. What in the photograph is not what he pulls the trigger on. It's what happens after he pulls the trigger. So in a sense, all his photographs are taken in anticipation of what he's going to see. And that's such a hugely intuitive process. That's where Jim had tools and ammunition that other people just couldn't match. And to see the Beatles book so thoroughly reveal like how detailed his coverage was, his journalistic eye, his sense of story. We've only seen tiny bits of this Beatles stuff before, just the cream of the top is the obvious pieces. And some of them have been circulated quite widely, cropped, which is a fucking anti-Jim Marshall thing. Jim Marshall never cropped his photos, but they take Gleason out of that Lennon photo all the time.
Yep.
And so here we have this document that not only gives you the incredible details of this last concert by the Beatles, but it is a revelation as to the skills that Jim Marshall brought to covering these events. And that's the book's real magic.
The book speaks for itself, really. An incredible piece. The price in the store is to be $40.
A steal for that kind of book.
Yeah, you can't get lunch for $40 anymore.
No, you can't. There's only the one version, correct?
Just the one version, yeah.
Okay.
And I loved working with Chronicle because they're so collaborative when we work with them. But they also wanted to, for this book in particular, make it affordable for everybody. So that's why they put a $40 price tag on there so that everybody could afford it and see this history, especially the younger generation that may just be learning about them or learning about this last concert. It's something that they could totally afford to get.
Joel, does the fact that young kids today like the Beatles surprise you at all?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really listening to Glenn Miller when I was their age. But the Beatles seem to have struck some kind of timeless note. Listening to the Beatles becomes a rite of passage in America. I guess it's about a 9 or 10-year-old thing now, but it comes without the cultural baggage. When we were listening to new Beatles records, they had all this heft in terms of coded messages and cultural meaning. And now it's just music. My kid growing up would switch off between the Beatles and Ella Fitzgerald and rap music. And none of this had any real particular cultural weight to her. It was all musical entertainment. And that's what the Beatles live on now, is that the substance that was in the music, the songs and the record production and the singing. It's no longer that they represent some countercultural movement and are defining the terms of social intercourse, which they did when they were putting out new records.
Yeah, it's amazing how much they contributed to the culture back then and how much they changed it. They really did change it in many ways.
It drove pop music up from the basement to the penthouse of our cultural considerations. And pop music was this entertainment for teenagers, and it was very diminished in the viewpoint of society. And as the Beatles advanced through their career, and I think the first breakthrough was that movie, Hard Day's Night, as people go, hey, they're funny. I remember my father going to the movie and coming like, oh, those are like blues-based songs. Yeah. As they advanced, they picked up more of this cultural steam, and the records became events. A new record by the Beatles was something that you just stopped and paid attention to, whether it was the clip on Ed Sullivan or the first time you heard it on the radio or whatever. And as such, they were lifting the whole world of pop music in the sphere.
Did you see the Ed Sullivan show? What did you think of the first one? You have any memory?
Well, we were all prepped for it. There was a big promotional campaign. The record was already on the radio. Capitol Records had handed out flyers at schools. The Beatles are coming. So, yeah, we all pulled up our stools and made sure we were there for that. And it sits in my mind like a dream I had that I can't forget. Those arrows pointing at the band on the stage set, All My Love and From Me to You. Those things were just rivets in my brain.
The word is that they're going to put out deluxe sets, a deluxe set of Rubber Soul next. That's the rumor that's been going through the internet. What do you think of that idea?
I thought the White Album package was real interesting and revelatory. I find the sorting through the outtakes to be interesting. And the anthology series really, it says to me that George Martin, no flies on George Martin. They didn't leave anything on the cutting room floor that didn't deserve to be there. And so the White Album, watching them do the demos and develop the material, at that point, they were making the records in the studio. They didn't compose them and have them whole and then go in and record them. The studio was part of the whole creative process. And of course, the White Album, they were not getting along at all. Lots of creative disagreements and lots of arguments. And my friend Steve Miller was down the hall at Olympic Studios cutting his album. And McCartney comes storming out of the Beatles session, walking down the hall, and pokes his head into Steve's studio. And it's just Steve in there by himself. McCartney comes in, spends the rest of the night making Steve Miller record.
He did.
So Rubber Soul, I have no idea what the outtakes are like. You probably know more than I do.
There have been some floating around, but when they gathered them up and put them together in those box sets, you never know what they're going to come up with. That Anthology 4 had a few things that I had never heard before.
The new anthology?
Yeah, the fourth disc there that they added in. Yeah, that had some things that I had never heard before. Have you heard the new McCartney album?
I haven't heard the new McCartney album for 10 or 15 years. I read about it, but I lost interest in him as a recording artist a long time ago.
It surprised me in several ways. I didn't expect what I heard. I was pleasantly surprised. And I am not pleasantly surprised by Paul McCartney automatically. So you can take that for what it is.
Interesting.
I think he's got a really good producer this time. Andrew
Funny,
Martin.
these 80-year-old rockers. The Stones record has some substance to it, too.
I haven't really paid attention to the Stones record.
They've got a blues track that just kills.
Joel, Amelia, it's been great fun talking to both of you. Best of luck with the book, Amelia.
Thank you.
Joel, I definitely hope we can talk again.
All right.
You guys take care. Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show today. We have something special. I'm going to give away one copy of this book that we talked about during the show. And the way you can get it is send me an email at BeatlesNewsBriefs@gmail.com and tell me in the subject line, contest. I will run the contest till June 10th, and then I will pick a winner and I will notify you. So there you go. Good luck to everybody. I hope you win. And thanks for listening and watching the show today. I hope you liked it. And if you don't subscribe, here's a good reason to subscribe to win the book. Anyway, take care, folks. And as Patrick McGowan says, be seeing you.
Be seeing you.
Keep that one. Mark it fab.
What a show! What a show!